Okay, hi. So before I begin reading our story for this week, I would like you to think about first, I'd like you to get a whiteboard or some paper. You should have a whiteboard with your supply pickup, or you can get out some paper to take notes. So you're going to be taking notes while I'm reading, and I'm going to help you take those notes. All right, so that you can answer some questions later on. So, the story that we're reading is called People Helping Whales, and it's by Rachel Tandy. Okay, so I hope you've had a second to get some paper or to get a whiteboard. So, I am using an app called Cami, and this is going to help me read the story. And while I read, I'm going to highlight certain words, and then I'm going to put little text boxes that show you key details. And keep in mind, when we think about key details, we're thinking WH questions: who, what, where, when, why, and sometimes how. So think about that as we're reading so that you can think about who's in the story, what's the setting, where is it located, what's happening, what are the events that's taking place. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like you to look at the cover of this book and think about People Helping Whales. Do you think this book is real or not real just by looking at the cover? What do you think? So, if you said that you think that this book is real and it's got facts in it, you are correct. This is an informational text. Okay, so our comprehension strategy is that we are going to ask and answer questions, and we're going to look for key details like I was talking about earlier. So you're going to watch as I find those key details in our text. How do we care for animals? People Helping Whales by Rachel Tandy. As you can see, this first page, I've already highlighted some things and put in some text boxes. Whales come in different sizes. The blue whale is the biggest. Blue whales can weigh more than 200 tons. And as you see, I put, what is the biggest whale? Because that's a question, and I've already had it answered for me. I also wrote, how much does a blue whale weigh? Because they give me an answer, and it's right there. So those are some notes that you can put onto your whiteboard or on your notepad. Orca whales swim very fast. They hunt fish, seals, and birds. So I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to add a comment, and I'm going to ask, what do orcas hunt? Because I've answered that. That's a key detail. Orca whales swim very fast and they hunt fish, seals, and birds. Orcas are also called killer whales. That's another interesting fact. So I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to highlight it. And that's something that we're just going to remember, or try to remember. Whales have fat under their skin. It is called blubber. It keeps the whale warm. I wonder if there's a question that we were thinking about as I read that. Whales have fat under their skin. It is called blubber. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to highlight that. Blubber, that word blubber. Because that's a key detail. And it keeps a whale warm. Interesting. They have fat. It's fat under their skin. I'm going to highlight that as well. And then I'm going to leave a little comment. So this is how I'm taking notes for all of us to see. And the question that comes to mind is, how do whales stay warm? How do whales stay warm? Because I can answer that question from the reading. Whales have fat under their skin. It's called blubber, and it keeps them warm. So I've just answered my question. Whales need to stay warm. As you can see, it's in the snow. The whale is breathing out. Whales breathe air. They breathe through a blowhole. It is on the top of the whale's head. I think that's an interesting detail that whales breathe air, especially because they live in the ocean. So I'm going to highlight that. They breathe through a blowhole. It's on the top of the whale's head. Blowhole, that's an interesting word. So I'm going to highlight that because that will remind me that that's how they breathe. And if I'd like to ask a question for that, what kind of question could I ask? How do whales breathe? How do whales breathe? Okay, let's keep going. Whales live in groups. They are called pods. Also, interesting information. So I'm going to highlight the word groups and I'm going to highlight the word pods because that sounds like a key detail. And I'm going to ask a question here. Let's see. What are pods? That's a WH question. What are pods? And I know that that's the group of that's what it's called where whales live. They live in groups and those groups are called pods. This is a pod of orca whales. Whales roam the oceans. In the summer, they live in cold oceans. Then winter comes, they swim to warmer oceans. So I might highlight. So the summer, they live in cold oceans. And in the winter, so I'm going to highlight the word winter, and I'm going to highlight warmer oceans. That way, if I go back and I look, I can remember that because I've highlighted it. So it's an interesting detail. Whales cannot live on the beach for long. Sometimes whales wander too close to the shore. They become stranded. They get stuck on the beach. The whales need help. People work together. They try to save the whales. Might have got some key details back there. So one of the key words that I think we should highlight is stranded. Stranded. What does that mean? They become stranded. Oh, they get stuck. I'm going to highlight the word stuck. How do they get stuck? That's a good question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a text box and I'm going to ask that question. How do whales get stuck on the beach? Okay, and I'm going to move on with our story. So the whales need help. People work together. They try to save the whales. A stranded whale must be kept cool and wet. People pour cold water on it. They must be careful. The water cannot go into the whale's blowhole. What is a key detail? I think that a key detail would be that stranded whale must be kept cool and wet because that way they stay alive. So I think that's a key detail. Let's see. Let's keep going. Water helps keep whales cool in the sun. Oh, and we've got pictures of all those people helping the whale. People dig away the sand around the whale. This allows the air to blow around it. That keeps the whale cool and safe. How can people move a whale? That's a good question. It takes many people. They use a raft. That is a special kind of boat. Oh, I like that. They've asked a question and they just gave us the answer. So they use a raft. That's a key detail. They use a raft to move a whale. I'm going to write that not as a question, but as a key detail. So I'm just going to write that next to here. People use a raft to move a whale. That sounds like a key detail to me. They also use a crane. It lifts the whale onto the raft. A boat tows the raft to deep water. Oh, that's pretty cool. So they use a crane. I'm going to highlight that word crane because we've got a picture of it down here, a big machine that's carrying the whale, picking the whale up. So it lifts the whale onto a raft, and then the boat or a boat tows the raft to deep water. That's all very interesting details, so I'm going to highlight them. The whale swims back out to sea. Oh, good. Everyone is excited as they watch it go. Okay, so to summarize, use important details to summarize the story People Helping Whales. What are some key details that you read as we went through the story? So think about those questions that we asked and think about what are some key details. All right, have fun thinking.